Thank you, Councillor. This motion is designed to address an urgent and growing need. Thousands of people now in mortgage arrears are likely to reach 35,000 in the next year. The number of possession orders in the courts have doubled in a year, and there's a real fear that when the banks get back into gear, they will rev up to evict rather than to assist those in trouble. We need the government to show leadership. The measures in this motion set out the way forward. It serves no public good to force families out of their homes because they can no longer meet their mortgage repayments. These are families who are caught up in a property spiral, a spiral caused by the greed, hubris and gross incompetence of developers, banks and a Fianna Fáil government. These are people who are so desperate they now rely on the Society of St Vincent de Paul, the self-employed, the recently unemployed, the new middle-class poor. They are young couples who bought under the shared ownership scheme run by local councils, often going to the very limits of their incomes to buy a home. And incredibly, there is no national data on arrears on this particular scheme, but NETD knows cases right across the country. I believe it's vital that the government adopt this motion, and I congratulate Deputy Lynch for bringing it forward. I also believe the government needs to go further and wider to address the housing crisis. We must assist the householder unable to meet their mortgage repayments. But this motion could and should also be a springboard for a much wider policy approach. The situation we face is totally transformed with regard to housing practice. We now need a change in housing policy. The old way of incentivising working people to buy in the private market no longer works. We're operating in a new landscape. From a reasonable level, the construction of local authority housing has dwindled to a trickle. According to the CIF, there are now over 80,000 privately built housing units lying idle. We have about 35,000 families and individuals looking for council housing who cannot afford to buy, and even if they could, the banks won't lend to them. Even rent supports, in particular the rent supplement, are being cut back and threatened with further cuts in the budget. The government expects that a tenant can renegotiate lower rents with their landlord, but many tenants are too insecure to do this, so we need to get real. There are also opportunities for policy development. A carbon tax is promised in the budget. That revenue can be used to address fuel poverty of householders, both in public and private housing. A housing strategy should provide for retrofitting older public housing stock in particular. So a new housing strategy is needed. By supporting this motion to deal with an urgent demand and need that is now out there and being largely created by a reckless government, this government will be taking the first step on the road